your audience is searching, which just so happens to be in today's world more places than ever before. Social media, Reddit, Yelp, the list goes on.
This is the PMP Industry Insider Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome out to another episode of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast, where we take a look at what is changing in the pest and lawn industries, and we take you to the front lines to those that are driving those changes. I'm Donnie, Shelton, owner of Triangle Home Services, which has Triangle Pest as well as Triangle Lawn. And with me, Dan. And Dan, please don't take a victory lap. Just yourself, the topic. I know it's going to resist our topic, our sponsors, peer group, and then I think that's it. So don't be offended either.
Good morning. It's Dan Gordon from PCO Bookkeepers and M&A Specialists. We do CFO work for the pest and lawn industry, as well as exit planning and transactional services. Let's see. Our sponsors. Well, actually, one of our sponsors is the guest today. But if you're interested in marketing services for the pest and lawn industry, it's Coalmarch. That's Coalmarch by WorkWave. If you're looking to grow or prepare your business for sale, Coalmarch can help you get there. And that would be coalmarch.com. Our other sponsor, who we saw quite a bit of at Pest World, is Todd Burke and Pestsure, providing insurance products tailor-made for the pest and lawn industries. Pestsure understands the risk of the business and offers coverages that fit your needs. If you'd like to join one of our industry peer groups, which I spent quite a bit of time with David Billingsley, just a really interesting, fun guy. He's our facilitator, and I think we have like 60 or 70 people in it now in the various groups. Please visit pmpindustryinsider.com/peer groups, or go back and listen to episode 136 for more information. And today, am I ready to introduce?
You're ready to rock, buddy. You got it. Yes.
Today, we are diving into a critical topic for any business. It's SEO, but it's not search engine. It's search everywhere optimization, not to be confused with search engine optimization. And our special guest is Derek Cummings. He's a team lead for Coalmarch for SEO. Is that search everywhere or is that search engine? And with over 15 years of digital marketing experience and a background as both a U.S. Marine, thank you for your service, and a solopreneur, Derek brings a unique perspective to the world of SEO. Derek, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. Welcome. I'm happy to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller, ironically.
Sound like we're on sports radio, you know?
It does feel a lot like sports radio.
First time, long time.
Yeah. No, well, welcome, Dick. I didn't realize that you were a U.S. Marine, but just I guess Dan said, appreciate your service. Glad that you did that. I certainly have a lot of respect for folks who give back to the country, so thank you for that. And with that, let's jump in. So let's talk a little bit about. I know people are very familiar with search engine optimization. Walk us through what's
everywhere.
I'm getting there. So calm down. Slow your jets there. I know you're fresh off Pest World and just wide open. But anyway, So search everywhere. What are the differences? What's I mean, just explain what that term even means and how it's different than SEO.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's just as it sounds. It's optimizing search for everywhere. Your audience is searching, which just so happens to be in today's world more places than ever before. Social media, ChatGPT. I know that's fresh in your mind, Donnie. Perplexity, which is another AI tool. Reddit, Yelp. The list goes on. People just searching in more places. Some people are actually looking for businesses too on social media versus just looking for confirmation reviews, that kind of thing. And of course, customers have never walked a linear path before to purchase. That's nothing new. But what's really changing is they're getting comfortable with starting that search other places than traditional search engines. But the real kicker here, I feel like, is that really these alternative search platforms are actually providing a great user experience for the first time, thanks to advancements in artificial intelligence, which of course we'll talk about later, I'm sure. So the overall takeaway really is that optimizing for traditional search engines alone isn't going to be enough as we move forward into 2025, as AI search, search in general, is becoming more omnipresent across platforms.
So let's talk about that. So we, before this episode, said we were not going to jump into this topic, and here we go. So Search GPT just got released, or I should say Chat GPT just kind of incorporated it in. I know that some folks have had the lucky opportunity to be testing it beforehand. I am unfortunately not one of those people. And we're talking about search everywhere, right? So there's obviously, the idea of really dialing in for Google or some other, now there's Search GPT, these other platforms that you're talking about. What are you guys seeing on that front as far as Search GPT? Have you guys done any kind of testing there? Yeah.
Unfortunately, no one in our company has access to Search GPT, even on the wait list since it was released. So can't really speak too much about that, other than we're definitely investigating and looking into what the features are supposed to be. But yeah, I don't see them overtaking Google's dominant market share, like 91% market share overnight, but it's definitely a lot of change happening, and definitely have to be top of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so let's just talk through search everywhere. So that just sounds completely overwhelming to me, right? When I think about everything that took so much effort as far as Google or Bing or whatever. And I mean, it was a lot of things to keep up with and a lot of things to do. And I don't know if you remember back in the day where we were like generating blogs all the time and looking for links. And I mean, it's all this different work and, the program that we would run to try to rank very, very well or high with just a search engine. How do you even approach search everywhere? And how does that even, how's that even possible? I mean, I just, the sheer amount of effort.
How did this search everywhere get coined? Is that, like an acceptable, because I'm not real familiar. I totally get what it is now that you've explained it or that I've read through the prep sheet, but explain that.
Yeah, so it's starting to get coined. I don't know exactly where it originated. I've read it in numerous places, but it's really just it's the evolution of search right now. Google's showing more social content in search, so typical authority signals like backlinks you mentioned, Donnie. Those kind of signals are not really possible to rank content because they just don't get links. So Google itself has to have different algorithms and different ways of measuring how helpful content is outside of just backlinks, because they're showing that type of content in search. So obviously, if you don't have social content, there's no way that content's going to show in search. So it's very much intertwined, both traditional search and AI search. But to answer your question, as far as like how to get started, how do you even accomplish this? Obviously, you can't be everywhere at once. So it's really just more so about finding where your audience is, using search listening tools and that kind of thing, and starting somewhere, trying to at least get a presence on the platforms where your audience is. For example, if you're in Florida, maybe you want to be on Facebook more than you would TikTok due to the demographic in that area.
Saying old people live in Florida?
That's what I hear.
Well, Dan's there, so we know that there's at least one data point.
Thank you. I've never been called a data point, but I'll take that.
Yeah, at least one data point. So let's talk through that. So there is a change in search behavior. The question I have is like, okay, so there's definitely, more platforms, there's more competition for eyeballs, those types of things. My question is of those platforms, which ones are people actually converting from? Like there's TikTok and there's Facebook and there's, all these social media platforms. And I'm not saying this isn't possible, and I'm certainly not saying people are not doing it. I've just seen people really struggle in the past, especially in our industry. I think lawn is probably a little bit more successful in this area than we are in the pest side. But are people truly, doing a transaction off these other platforms? Like, are they worth the attention, and are they worth all the time and money? I guess is really what I'm going after here is like, of course, we know these other platforms exist. And of course, I'm sure there's other businesses if they're selling weight loss pills or whatever, who knows? I don't know. But are they really buying pest control off of TikTok, right? Are customers really buying pest control off of, these social media platforms? And so any thought there?
Yeah, right now it's lipstick and fidget spinners and that kind of stuff. But yeah, especially on TikTok, TikTok's got a marketplace. So I don't think they're right now purchasing services on TikTok and that kind of thing, but there's opportunity there to show up for related searches. And of course, in order to really see that unlinear path through the customer journey, you would really need to make sure that you have data-backed attribution set up and you're tracking and Google Analytics, so you can see that, all those various touch points that led to that sale. So there may not be a direct sale happening off social, but it's definitely involved. Like I said before, like customers never have a linear path. Usually they do research, and they're, if you're not on that platform in which they're doing research with, that's the first step in getting visibility.
So can you actually scale? I haven't heard too many. Can you scale a marketing campaign around social for pest control? Or like if you're like it's a specialty group, so you were talking about makeup. Okay, so you join a makeup thing. If you're into skateboarding, you join a skateboarding club. And even if you look on Facebook and Instagram, you've got all these pest control owners groups. So that's B2B. And you can definitely market and that works. But is anybody really looking for pest control services or lawn care on social? And yeah, I'm sure that you can probably get some leads, but can you scale it and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to commit a lot of money and get a lot of leads from it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can yet, but I think the point is it's coming. I think as AI is being integrated in search more frequently, it's creating an opportunity for every little platform out there to have their own internal search. And the goal of those platforms is to keep people on platform. And if you've ever played with ChatGPT, you can see it can answer whatever questions that you want. And guess what's powering these internal search tools is ChatGPT. So all of these platforms, eventually, they're going to have their own search functionality.
So I get a termite swarm. I don't know what it is. So I go to Google or I go to YouTube, but I don't go to Facebook. Are you saying that that's coming?
I'm saying that it's coming for sure. We've seen like 40% of young people in general, they don't even see Google as a de facto way to find information. And it's not just Gen Alpha, it's also Gen Z and millennials. So these are potential homeowners. So, if not now, into the future, they trust those platforms, believe it or not. So it's definitely coming.
Donnie, are you seeing any with any numbers, uh, you know, lead flow from social?
No, not really. But I don't know that that's a function of what's happening in the marketplace as much as it is what's happening with us. I mean, I will tell you personally, rarely do I go to Google anymore. Most of the time, I'm using AI to ask questions. And then if I want something more up to date or I need to back it up or, if there's something functionally I can't do with AI or ChatGPT, then I'll go to Google. And not to say that I never use Google. I don't want people to read that the wrong way. I just don't start there, I guess.
You wouldn't start on Facebook or Instagram.
I don't, but that's me. And I'm not, I'm one data point, right? I'm not like I don't know that I'm the but I'm just simply, going back to what Derek's saying here, I think certainly that's changing. Where back in the day, that was the only thing, it was the only game in town. Now there's a lot more options. And for me personally, I'm just, that's just where I'm at, right? But that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that other folks aren't, like my wife, for example, on social like all the time. You know what I mean? And so she's probably going to be, her behavior is probably going to be, that's where she's going to start just because that's what she's doing, right? So not so much on, going back to your question, Dan, I don't think that we're seeing a ton coming from social, but again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't out there. It just means that we're not very strong on that platform, So going back to this whole idea that search everywhere and how do you even approach or like, I guess the big question I have is for you, Derek, is like, okay, you got to be everywhere, all things to all people. Like this could just completely overwhelming to me. Like, where do you start? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, search everywhere. That sounds great. Well, yeah, that sounds great until you try to approach it. And like, you got Nextdoor, you got social as far as TikTok, you've got Google, you've got ChatGPT. You just all these different platforms. How do you start and what do you do?
I think you start with social listening. You try to figure out where your audience is so you can, don't be spread too thin. Try to figure out where your audience is for the most part. And that'll obviously range depending on geography and other demographics. But that would be the start. And you just try
So
to get
define
it good.
social. Is that a real thing, or is that something I could subscribe to, or is that just a concept?
Absolutely, Dan. Yeah, there's services for that, and it really just listens to brand mentions, that kind of thing. But you can also look in Google Analytics. You can look at your analytics to find your referral sources and just see where the traffic is coming from for the most part. And if you put those two things together, you could probably say, okay, a lot of my audience is coming from Facebook or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it probably has a lot to do with your goal too, right? I mean, if you're looking for branding and kind of top of funnel, that's going to be very different than conversion-based marketing, right? I mean, if I'm just looking to get my name out, well, then obviously I'm not going to do that with pay-per-click. I'm going to do that with more of the social side, making videos, those types of things, why it's important, how awesome we are and how great the customer is and yada, yada, yada. But if I'm looking to buy leads and I'm looking to I've got, any dollar I spend in marketing should turn into a customer, that's a completely different goal. And I would imagine it's going to be, different platforms, right? Would you agree with that, Derek?
Yeah, I'd say so, for sure.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about user engagement. Do you see this impacting search in the future? Like, obviously there's a lot more, much like what you said, there's many, many more platforms that are out there. Do you think search is taking into account engagement? And if so, then how is that going to impact, what we do as operators?
Yeah, I'd say for sure. I mean, Google's always used engagement in search in some level. Right now, they really only use it in two ways. They use it to periodically train their machine learning algorithms. They also use it alongside their initial document retrieval systems. They have a system called NavBoost, which is designed to help search engines understand navigational queries, which is really just a fancy way of saying people searching for new brands and products that it doesn't know anything about. So they use it in that respect. But circling back to what I said earlier, because we have more social in search right now, there's no way for Google to really measure those results as authoritative through traditional ranking algorithms like backlinks, that kind of thing. So user engagement signals are going to be the only way that they can, at least for now, rank those search results. So it's definitely going to be part of search for sure.
Gotcha.
I mean, as content gets diluted in our industry, I mean, everyone can easily create blogs in an instant click. It's going to get diluted out there, and traditional search engine algorithms aren't going to be enough necessarily. And we're going to need more ways to determine if content is helpful, like social signals and that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Likes and shares.
Right. So if just to kind of recap what you said there, in the past where it was like how much content are you generating and how much interest is it? It's really how useful is the content now. It's probably quality more than quantity, I would imagine. Is that
For
kind of
sure.
what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we need a way to measure that. And we usually, there's no other way of doing that for at least for the new content types, rich content types like forums and, user generated content and video than user engagement.
Any stats on, and I guess if you can break it down probably by age group, how many people read and how many people watch videos?
I don't have any of that, Dan, but I'm sure that it's a lot amongst the younger generation.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's talk through, what do you feel like are the major platforms that like a pest or lawn company should be on today? Like, what do you feel like are maybe the top 5?
I kind of feel like with its growth, TikTok, I just feel like it's just growing at such a rapid rate that if you're not on TikTok, you're going to miss out on that branding aspect in the future. I feel like the younger generation, they want to see videos. They want to kind of feel out the vibe of your company. And it's a great opportunity to try to just put some short form videos out there of like you in the field. Maybe for example, an example of lawn care might be like showing results over time for a problem lawn or something like that. Or maybe for pest, it's showing how there's humane rodent removal or just something to resonate with a particular audience, and just getting that brand out there on those platforms where the platforms that are growing. because that's where the future is going to be. And TikTok is probably the number one place for that. But of course, you can't ignore Facebook. Facebook is still huge, and there's a large demographic in there of current homeowners. So you definitely can't ignore Facebook either. But if you look at AI, like AI overviews, for example, it's just Google's AI search. That tends to look a lot at LinkedIn, Wikipedia, and YouTube. So ideally, you'd have some content on those platforms too. That way, it would increase your likelihood of showing up on the AI overviews.
So TikTok, LinkedIn, what else?
I think those are the major.
But if I'm doing B2B, I get LinkedIn. B2C on LinkedIn?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's just having a presence there, having some content, sharing the content. You could even, to answer your question about scaling too, like you could, for example, have a video that's on TikTok or on YouTube or wherever, and then you can just share that to LinkedIn. There's ways that you can have your content be omnipresent without having to go out of your way and creating specific content for those channels. Ideally, that would be what you do. You would create specific content for those channels, but you can share your content across platforms pretty easily.
So are you saying that, right now you go on Google, you get you get your pest control company and whatnot. They ask you to leave a review on Google, and so you do it, and then you create a whole bunch of reviews. And so are you saying in the future, I'm not going to necessarily look at the reviews. I'm going to go right to TikTok and say, hey, show me some pest control companies in my area?
Younger demographic, yeah.
My
No.
impression of TikTok was all about. I don't know about you, Donnie, but what do you think?
Well, so go back to what you're going to say there, Derek, and I'll come back with my thoughts of TikTok.
I was just gonna say it, and I'm not one of those people. I don't say I'm young enough, but from what I hear, the buzz going around is that that's how young people search. They want that confirmation that the business is, it has the messaging that they're expecting. It meets their expectations. So a lot of times they will look you up on social media and just see if you have any short videos, or they want to see that you're real. They don't want to just invite anybody into their home. They want to see that your messaging resonates. So yeah, I think it can happen. It's not super popular right now, but I think it's going to be important in the future. So that's why it's important to get a presence on those platforms as soon as possible.
So going back to your question for me, Dan, I am a fan of getting on TikTok. I think it is good for, much like what Derek just said, I think it's a fantastic way to brand yourself. And I think there's a lot of eyeballs on TikTok. In fact, I know there are. Now, having said all of that, I can't stand TikTok. It's terrible, right? I mean, like for me, I'm like, I am just so not the target audience, right? I mean, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what I'm into. What matters is wherever our customers are at. And I mean, ultimately, I think, kind of what Derek was just saying, if we're interested in top of funnel marketing, top of funnel branding, it's pretty cheap. It's more about the grunt work of getting the videos done and making sure that the videos are at least decent quality. And much like what he was saying, getting the vibe of your company out, I think those things should be there. Because I will tell you, I have seen a lot of companies come from nowhere. I mean, nowhere, and don't spend a ton of money, and they have such a massive presence on TikTok. They're able to do what most companies would pay millions of dollars to do with just, a few $100s with just some basic videos and a little bit of working effort. So, not something I like, certainly not the target audience, but I am definitely a fan for what it can do. So,
yeah.
Have you guys seen those videos of people out pressure washing for free or mowing a lawn that's, this person in the neighborhood can't afford to mow their lawn? They go out there and they mow it for free, and those videos go viral.
Yeah.
So without getting political, what about the government and TikTok, and is that a thing, or is that not going to go anywhere?
I don't think it's.
I'm not even sure you're referring to, Dan.
That's the perfect response.
And if I did, I'd have to kill you.
Yes. No, I don't. Listen, I think that's a bunch of baloney. I don't think they're going to sell. And even if they do, I mean, like at the end of the day, TikTok's not going away. Who owns it and how they structure it? And even if they make some front company and say, well, no, it's US owned. I mean, I don't really give a I've got to be careful. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think the demand is way too high, and I think that there's way too many users. And the idea that some politicians are going to come in and just ban TikTok that's not going to happen. Not going to happen. You
Not
heard
going
it
to
here
happen,
first.
100%.
It's not going to, not going to happen. So, okay. So, what other things can businesses be doing to prepare for this kind of search anywhere search behavior? Anything else you can think of?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to AI. I know we said we weren't going to talk too much about it, but given that AI search is going to be in these tools, really just trying to optimize for AI as much as possible. That's definitely going to be part of it. So I can definitely talk about some of the ways that a company can optimize themselves for AI.
Well,
Um,
I was gonna say,
So,
let's talk about that because I am actually.
yeah. I
How do you optimize for AI?
mean, years
That's
ago,
a
you used to word stuff, and that doesn't work anymore. How do
word
you
stuff.
optimize
Yeah.
for AI?
well, ironically, I've done some studies, and really the number one factor that I would say is being mentioned on the internet. So this is like backlinks. This is backlinks from all platforms, going back to the omnipresence. Um, Mentions on social, mentions on authoritative sources. For the most part, ChatGPT looks at, because these systems, they have the same type of crawlers that Google has. They're crawling links. Links are still the backbone of the internet. So you really need to have mentions on the platforms that these large language models are crawling. So Forbes, Home Advisor, those big names for the lawn and pest industry. You want to have links everywhere. That would be the number one thing that I would suggest. You're also going to want to have high quality, up to date content, comprehensive content, and it's content that answers questions thoroughly. That would be without that content, without the backbone there, you're not going to do well. And this can get a little technical, but you really want schema markup. This helps those same models understand your content better. Um,
And,
and
and
basically, that's just code that helps the crawlers understand your content in a way that makes sense.
so if I'm doing all video, can it read like? So I get it if I have a backlink and it's an article, you can find the words. But if it's video, can it recognize words in your video? And
We're getting there. Yes, I would.
Well,
In short, yes, and especially moving forward, even Google has new systems that are coming out that can do just that, Dan. Yeah.
okay. So I have a confession to make here, and this is kind of funny. But so as we were talking, I went to AI and asked AI, how do I optimize for AI? Here's what I got. Hang on. Here's what I got. This is what came back with. Number one, establish a robust online presence. Okay, so that's the same thing as SEO. Okay.
Sure.
It goes high quality content, SEO optimization, structured data markup. Okay, so that's nothing new.
Mhm.
Integrate with AI platforms, voice search optimization, and local listings. Again, nothing new. Invest in customer reviews and reputation management. Nothing new. Let's keep going. Become a data source. Now, this one is very different. Um, not that's not very different. I mean, obviously, let me go back a little bit when I say become a data source and why it is different, because that hasn't been my focus. Years ago, we had this pest library up, and I know people have heard me talk about this, and our site traffic just went through the roof, and I thought, man, we're killing it. But I never saw it in leads, and it was because people were going to our freaking pest library and like learning about pests, but not buying.
student,
And I was like, I killed it. I'm like, I don't want researchers here. I don't want students here. I want
right?
buyers
You're
here, right? So anyway, become a data source is another one. And here's the interesting one. This is where it starts getting new. Utilize AI tools for customer engagement. It's interesting that it would mention that you should use AI tools to be optimized for AI. So use AI tools for customer
Sounds like a
engagement.
total circle jerk. You asked AI.
Yeah. Well, whoa. Hang on there.
You asked, what should I do to optimize AI? Well, use
Oh
a
my gosh. Well, use
like a
AI. No,
drug
but it says
commercial.
integrate
You're
chatbots.
allergic to this product,
Integrate chatbots for customer FAQs and enabling 24/7 support, which makes sense to me, right? You're giving a better customer experience. And then it says engage customers with personalized email follow-ups and reminders about services, yada, yada, yada. And then the last one is collaborate with AI-friendly platforms, which is Yelp, Nextdoor, Thumbtack, and ultimately feed your data into larger AI models. And so I thought this was a pretty interesting. I'm happy to share this chat, and it's kind of in line exactly what you're saying there, Derek. But it's just hilarious to me that when you look at it, it's essentially the old school SEO with you better add AI to your stuff, right? Making sure that you become a data source and then try to integrate with other models. Very interesting.
But the data
Now you
sources,
got me all interested, Derek. After this episode, I'm going to start doing some more digging.
Donnie, the data source is interesting. I would have thought, that's, uh, you put all this data out there. How do you leverage that? Were you not leveraging it correctly, or is it just the
No,
data
you come
source?
out before when
The,
I
the
built it.
researchers, who, because I get that
Well,
too. We have a lot of data, right? And we push it out for PCO bookkeepers.
okay.
And
So hang on. I am not a university. Don't want to be,
yeah,
never will be. Don't want to be high school, nothing. I want to
yeah,
sell pest and lawn. That's what I want to
yeah,
do. And so I've always had the mindset that my website is there to enable me to connect with customers and for me to sell services. That's what it's there for.
right,
If people need to service the account, of course I want them to go to the website, but ideally they're going to call us, right? Just so it's a lot faster and better, in my opinion, a better customer experience. Although I will tell you that most people don't want to talk on the phone now, so we have to adapt a little bit better to that. But ultimately, it's all about what's the intent of the site. The intent of the site, at least for me, has been to sell pest control. However, when people are using AI and they have a question about something, you got to remember that the back end of AI is nothing more than data and connections. That's all it is. And so if you don't have that source data and you don't have the connections, I mean, I very much can see how you might just get walked over and not even, I shouldn't say referenced, but AI is not buying your product. AI is trying to get data. You know what I mean? AI is trying to give analysis of data. And so, anyway, enough of me monologuing here. It was very interesting that question, where that question went. So, okay, back to you, Derek. What is Coalmarch doing to adapt to this new reality, right? So there's this obviously, SEO, very, very, I don't want to say very focused mindset. Now that you're kind of opening up the whole realm of these different areas that people are going to find you, what are you guys doing to kind of prepare for and really leverage the search everywhere concept?
Yeah, so like I said, it's very much intertwined. It's very much like SEO. There's very much a social aspect. So we're trying to bring it all together. And one of the first things that we've done, this was of course the biggest factor there with AI, was link building. So we've developed a more robust link building offering that allows us to focus more on authoritative sources. So that was a big one for us. We're also continuing to involve our blog strategy, trying to offer more comprehensive content and building onto that content regularly instead of maybe
are
just
those
creating a
video
new
blogs or vlogs, or are they written blogs?
written blogs for now. Yeah, written blogs for now. But we used to focus more on new topics all the time. But a lot of times, there's more benefit to going back and editing that existing article to provide more value. And with that, also providing the schema there in the back end that shows crawlers that this article is up to date. So that's been a big part of it as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why sites like Wikipedia rank so well, is because the content is always fresh. Like, would you rather read something that is 3 weeks old or 3 years old and potentially irrelevant? So I do recommend that you update your content, the very best
Hey, what do
content,
you
well, at
think
least
of a
once a year.
Wikipedia page? I've just been lately inundated with Wikipedia vendors who want to write, our whole Wikipedia thing. Is that something that you recommend, that everybody should have a Wikipedia page, or?
100%. Like I said before, like Wikipedia is one of those sources that's referenced in AI overviews. So in theory, that it's going to be part of all these search algorithms as they expand. So definitely want to have that. It's a good way to build a brand. I mean, they're going to need social content. You're going to need to be on Wikipedia. You're going to need to have all of that. And branding is going to be a big part of search as we move forward. So it's all intertwined together.
Cool. Well, Derek, this has been fantastic. And if our listeners want to learn more, obviously you guys are a sponsor of the show, so we already have you linked up on the website, but we certainly will put a link to Coalmarch's website for this episode. And if there's any blogs or articles that you guys have on this topic, we would certainly be happy to link those. Dan, what do you got to add? Any questions?
Nothing. I think that
Parting
this
thoughts?
This is really pretty interesting, the whole movement from search engine or from the Google type searches to AI searches. To me, that's just really, really interesting,
Really cool.
in how it's going to get done in the future.
Derek, anything to add before we finish out here? By the way, it's been fantastic having you here on the podcast.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate you guys sticking with me through all this. I know it's been a lot of information. I will just end with we are trying to experiment with some level of social posting as a service, so that's coming as well. So keep that in mind.
Awesome.
But looking ahead, I think a little bit of education on data-driven attribution would be helpful for business owners. Just trying to get a visual as far as your return on investment from all those touch points. Google Analytics has that ability.
Well, I don't know if you guys have planned out your the WorkWave conference and talks or whatever, but I think this would be a fantastic one to do one on. So that's just my.
I know that I'll be there. You're going to be there,
I'll be
Derek,
there.
doing a talk.
It's gonna be in Texas this year, so I will be there.
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
Dallas, right?
I'll be there as well.
Is where it's going to be. Yeah. So.
Yep.
I'm doing 3 talks, so I'm excited about it.
Maybe we'll have Dan fly with us, or at least fly with me down there, because that way he can talk about death and destruction the entire time, which would be for an interesting
That's a
flight.
great idea, and
Yes.
each time I fly with you, that's what I think about. So,
and that's what he talks about. And with that, just a reminder that all the resources and topics that we talked about today are available on the podcast website. Just take a look at pmpindustryinsider.com. Take a look under show notes. Again, we'll link up Coalmarch and any blogs or any other information they want to provide you concerning search everywhere optimization. We'll do it for this show. And as always, we appreciate any ratings and reviews that you have, so long as they're positive. And if they're not, we ask you to direct those at Dan. And with that, we'll sign off and see you all next time. Take care.